The Kurdish Republic of Mahabad, backed by the Soviets, declared independence in certain areas of Iran in January 1946. The Soviets left May of that year. A few months later, after they left, the Kurdish Republic fell to the Iranian army. Qazi Muhammad, the leader of the republic, was then hanged in Mahabad after they fell to the Iranian army. Then Mohammad Reza Pahlavi took over Iran and then was way more autocratic. He disliked everything about political groups of the Kurds looking for better rights. This started the thoughts of fighting between the two republics. A lot of fighting and war broke out between the Islamic Republic of Iran and the Kurdish militant groups about right after the Iranian Revolution. This was right between 1979 and 1982. Ruhollah Khomeini called a holy war against the Kurdish rebels in Iran in 1979. He wanted to take back control of the central control of the country. He sent troops to kill tons of inhabitants of Kurdish towns, and photos of the massacres ended up getting to the Kurdish issue a world-known thing. Finally, in 1983, the Iranian government gained control back over the places where the Kurds had been. When the Kurds had gone over into Syria in 1920, there were not many problems, and Syria really didn't even pay attention to them. Then in about 1960 to 1970, they started to have little problems here and there. It wasn't until about the late 1980s when the serious problems started happening. The different ethnicities that lived around where the Kurds were staying in Syria started to discriminate against them. This is when the arrests and murders started happening. Most of the Kurds came to Syria from Turkey in 1920. It was kind of a mutual relationship between the people there and the Kurds until around 1980 when the fights started happening around the areas where the Kurds were, and discriminating against their kind started happening. There were lots of deaths and arrests because of the clashing between the different ethnicities. This continued from 1986 to 1992. One of the main reasons that the issue in Turkey happened is still in the process of happening is because all the issues in Turks have against the Kurds. The government policy pointed to the assimilating Kurds in 1930, which was forcing them into the ways of the Turkish people and turning them into a Turk. The people that withstood these things happening are now the ones that fight for better recognition of the Kurds. In Turkey, the Kurds make up at least 20% of their population. Around the 1980s, the Kurds started doing peaceful and non-peaceful rebellions and things wanting to change the way they were being treated to become a single state. These had to do with the civil problems and other things they were being treated poorly of. Also, the fact that they speak an Indo-European language didn't help them out with the discrimination either. The fighting for Kirkuk has been going on between the federal government of Baghdad and the regional government of Kurdistan and Erbil for a while now. It started with it not being decided if it was a boundary or not. This made them fight on where the boundary should be. On top of all that, it was also an oil field, so they were fighting for money also. In Iraq, the Kurds live in a portion in the north and the northeast. Kirkuk is a city in Iraq that is a non-official boundary line between the Arab and Kurdish Iraq. This city just happens to be the cause of a huge issue between the federal government of Baghdad and the Kurdistan regional government in Erbil. There have been many fights over this area, and it also happens to be the holder of a big oil field, which just adds to the desperations of the people who have to fight over it. The Kurds have been living in 4 different countries of Turkey, Syria, Iran, and Iraq for a long while now, and they have wanted their own independent country pretty much since they got there. This problem came up when some of the countries didn't want to give up the land, and the fighting and war started over it between them. The main issue here is the Kurds fighting for their own country, Kurdistan. That is the whole reason for all the other conflicts that have been mentioned. They are trying to take the land that they have settled on for many years and turn it into their own independent state. This is where all the conflicts start showing up with all the other countries that are fighting for their land from. Turkey is definitely one of the main key players in this because this is the country that the Kurds are trying to take the most land from. Kurdistan will be using a lot of Turkey's land to be created, so that is why Turkey is definitely one of the main key players. Obviously, the Kurds are one of the main key players considering that the whole reason this conflict has come up. The people of this ethnic group are the ones trying to make their country Kurdistan for their own people, so that is why they're one of the main characters. Another one of the main key players in this conflict will be Syria. The country is also one of the country that is its land being used to make the country of Kurdistan. The land that they are being asked to give up makes them one of the key players. Iran is also a key player because of asked for land for the new country Kurdistan. A lot of the Kurds can be found in this region, and that is why they want the area to be used for their new country. Quite a few of Kurds are in Iraq also. Iraq is being asked for parts of its land also for the new country of Kurdistan by the Kurds, so that would make this one of the key players as well. Without their piece of land, the amount of area of the new country of Kurdistan would have to decrease substantially. One of the other factors would definitely be cultural boundaries. They are in every country that the Kurds are living in because of the differences in language and other cultural features. Another factor would be the Kurds not having a real state. They are a non-state group. That's what all the conflict is over, them not having a state. If this was never a factor, then there would be no fighting or anything because there would be nothing for them to fight for. Shape would definitely be another factor in this conflict. By all them being confined within other countries, this makes it very difficult for them to be able to communicate and get their supplies and resources. They must rely on their surrounding countries to bring them in what they need. Because of them differing ethnicity and culture, other cultures disrespect them, causing discrimination. This, of course, would lead to issues. Having a different language causes conflicts, and in a sense splits them from the people that surrounds them.